Hi, I'm Lisa Andria, Transformation Life Coach. Welcome to the Ladies Who Leap podcast, where guests share their inspiring stories of leaping out of their comfort zone with confidence and power and into a life of purpose and fulfillment. Let's listen to their life-changing stories so that we can all learn how to gain the courage to take a leap of faith into a life that we love so that we can all be Ladies Who Leap. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to the Ladies Who Leap podcast. And I am happy to say that my guest today is Jennifer Anderson. My guest today is Jennifer Anderson. She's an accountability ally coach with Thankful Hearts Coaching. Jen specializes in guiding women towards their true potential. Through their unique coaching approach, Jen helps transform lives by shifting beliefs and establishing healthy, empowering boundaries. Jen's journey into coaching was inspired by a powerful realization that the combination of belief plus boundaries equals bliss. This isn't just a motto, it's the core of her coaching philosophy. Working with her own clients, Jen has witnessed the incredible transformation that occurs when women adopt the right mindset and set clear boundaries, leading them to a level of bliss and fulfillment they never thought possible. At the heart of Jen's offerings is the Mindful Habits Academy, a sanctuary designed for growth, learning, and transformation. This academy is more than just a program, it's a community where you can develop habits that resonate with your deepest desires and truest self. Jen also nurtures a vibrant community of extraordinary women in a private Facebook group, which I am a member of. This space is dedicated to connection, sharing, and growth, where you can find support and inspiration from like-minded individuals on similar paths. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you, Lisa. I am so excited to be here with you today.
And I'm so glad we met because we actually met as a result of a wonderful business coach named Jake Ballantyne. We're very similar in our passion to help others. Now, even though I know this story, but can you explain to people what was your past? Where did you come from? And kind of what led you into deciding to go into, well, not what led you, but where did you come from? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. In my past life, I always tell people I lived a very mediocre life. I didn't really aspire to greatness. I didn't know if I had greatness in me. And it was this, I don't know, it was kind of this underlying thing for me. And what I started to realize was that I really wanted to serve people. I had this deep need to serve people. Even as a little girl, I had this deep need to serve people. I just didn't understand it. And so what that brought me to as an adult was figuring out how I could serve those people and what people I wanted to serve. And so I worked a long time in retail, and then I worked in a few other positions, but where my real passion started was doing youth work. And for about 15 years, give or take a few, because I can't keep track of everything, I was either a youth leader or the youth director for my church. And that work really got me thinking about what it could look like for me to do that kind of work full time for myself, and what that could bring, and how I could really not only serve people but help them, like really help them and do that kind of work. And I will tell you, out of all of the cohorts of kids that I've had, I still have really close connections with several of them. And that is, I mean, these kids are in their 20s, some of them are in their 30s. And, that is just really, I love that. That fills my heart. That fills everything. So, and the pastor that I was working with towards the end was the pastor that kept encouraging me to look into life coaching. And he said, this would be a great thing for you. And so I did. And I quit my job with him because I was also his administrative assistant. And I quit my job with him, and I branched out on my own.
Yeah, you've explained a story that there was a certain book that led to this cathartic release to becoming a coach. Can you tell us about that story?
Absolutely. So like I said, this pastor would encourage me, and partially he encouraged me because there were always people in my office, whether they were, we also had an education center with our church. So whether they were teachers or the education center director, or they were parents, or they were congregational members, there was always somebody in my office that was kind of asking me about something or wanting to talk and wanting me to listen. And I've always had that gift of being able to listen and kind of read between the lines. I always say that problem solving is probably my biggest skill and my biggest strength, because I do hear things that other people don't hear, and I think outside the box a little bit. So he was always encouraging me, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And it was always sat in the back of my mind, but I was like, oh, I do this for free. Nobody's going to pay me. And one day I was at home and I was cleaning house, and I was listening to the audiobook Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. And um, she was talking, and I have to say, Rachel, if you ever hear this podcast, I apologize. I never finished listening to that book because it caught me so off guard. But she was saying, I don't even know what she was saying. She was saying this and she was saying that. And I just kept thinking, I said that to somebody the other day. And I was just saying that. And so all these things kept going on. And the next thing I knew, I was sitting on my floor, like in this little ball, and I was just sobbing, like ugly crying, but it was good. It was all really good. And it was this cathartic release of, this is what I meant to do. This is my purpose. This is my passion. This is what it is. And it had never been so clear in my life. And I spent the rest of that day, I don't even think I finished cleaning house. I think I was done. I was like, I spent the rest of that day researching what I needed to do to become a life coach, how this looked, what I could get involved in. And I found exactly what I wanted. And I've never looked back. And I'm so grateful for it, because not only did it bring me to the point where I can help women, I can fulfill women, I can serve them, but it also brought so many amazing people into my life that I can now collaborate with, that have, like, I have a friend that I've been on this journey with since the day we started coaching courses. And we talk at least once a week, but usually 3, 4, 5 times a week. We get on the phone and chat about something, because it's that important, and it's that important to keep those people close to you. And so, Lisa, I love this so much because I get to hang out with you, I get to collaborate with you, and I just love this kind of stuff. So that's where it's at.
Wow. And I mean, just listening to you tell that story gave me goosebumps, because you really it just exploded out of you, and it was a completely emotional breakthrough that brought upon what you could do. And I know it's not easy. It's not easy to make those leaps in life. It's not easy to start something as an entrepreneur. We all know that it takes time, and it takes dedication, and it takes energy, and it takes positivity, and it takes accountability, as you know, you have with your clients. And so, and these decisions to make these transitions, they kind of shift over time. How do you get through, or got through, the difficult periods over this, period when you decided to be a coach? There are tough spots. How did you get through those?
Well, really having that core community, so the coaching courses that I went through um actually forced us to do what they called skills labs. And so we had to practice coach with each other. And so that formed really huge bonds. Like I said, I still have the one gal. I still have several that I talk to on a fairly regular basis. And so I think having that, plus the fact that I have such an amazing supporting husband, he was not going to let me not do it. He was not going to, he was like, it's your call. You do what you need to do. But he never has questioned me. He's never, I mean, I did this all without talking to him. I was like, oh no, honey, sorry, this is what I'm doing now. And he was just like, okay, if that's what's going to make you happy and that's what you need to do, you do it. And he loves it, and he supports me, and he tells all of like his female coworkers or anybody, he's like, you guys should just go talk to my wife. And actually we had a scare last year where we thought he was going to lose his job. And that's a scary thing. We are a one income household for the most part. And so I just said, after the initial shock wore off, I just said, you know what, it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. We're well taken care of. We are always well taken care of. Let's have some faith. Let's believe in this. It's going to be okay. And the next day he went to work, and one of the girls was like freaking out, kind of on they have a little conference call, and she was kind of freaking out. And he said, you know what? It's going to be okay. And they're like, how are you so strong about this? And he goes, I had a long talk with my wife. And they were like, oh, we might need to talk to her. And it ended up working out. It was great. It was fine. They took care of him. It was no big deal. But it's those kinds of things, like having that support, having those people around you that will see what you're doing and believe in you, even if they don't understand it.
Oh, yeah. And he obviously took your energy and your advice and applied it. And so that's so supportive. That is a wonderful thing to have him in your life and the community. I know that as coaches, we do rely on each other. There are several communities that we have, but we're so lucky that we, as one of our friends, Coach Paul says,
Yes.
a rising tide, how does it go?
A rising tide, a rising tide rises all boats. It's
Yes, yes.
something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we know
Yeah.
that we're all here to help people, so we support each other to be able to help as many people as we can, right?
Yes. Lifts all boats. That's what it is. A rising tide lifts all
A
boats.
rising tide lifts all boats.
That's what
And I
it
think that was a
is.
JFK quote, if I'm thinking
I think so
correctly.
too. And our friend Jake actually has another group that's called Rising Tides.
Ah, okay, I didn't even know that.
Yes.
So you have a wonderful focus on helping people be accountable and also setting boundaries. In fact, I just attended a Boundaries for Bliss masterclass that you offered, and it was fantastic. What are the insights, some of the insights that you can share on this subject with other people?
Yeah, so boundaries is one of those things that I didn't learn till later in life. I didn't really fully understand them. And one of the things I'm learning now that I'm really like honing in on them is that I don't know that most people understand boundaries. I think boundaries and asking for help, which is what I see accountability being, are the two things I wish were taught in schools. Whether it's high school, college, middle school, it needs to be taught. Our kids need to understand these things because number one, boundaries are never for the other. They're never meant to control someone. They're always meant for you to live your best life. So when I set a boundary for me, not to control someone. And I just think that that's probably the most misunderstood aspect of boundaries. We tell people boundaries are meant to, make sure that people do exactly what you want them to do. And that's so not true. But I hear it time and time again, and I'm like, no, no, no. And I have to tell you, I even went to a retreat in Maui with a different coach, and one of the gals or somebody there, I don't know if it was one of the retreat people, but somebody there while I was there said something came up around boundaries, and somebody said, yeah, I set boundaries when I need people to do exactly what I want. And I was like, oh, how far do I go into this? Because it wasn't my retreat. I'm not even sure it was a retreat member. So I was like, how far? And I was like, well, you could try just setting them for the things you really want and worry less about controlling. So it is hard. It is definitely hard. And like I said, as an accountability ally, I believe one of the biggest cores to accountability is asking for help and accepting help, receiving. So being able to receive and understand that that help is there for you is a huge deal. And so I think that's also like really important when it comes to even with boundaries, because you have to be able to do that and open yourself up for that.
Can you explain a particularly touching client success story and how your work enhanced their life, both either from an accountability perspective or a boundary perspective? Yeah, that would be.
I actually have one that kind of hits both.
Hmm.
So, one of the things that I offer with accountability coaching is I call it a power hour. And it's an hour where we come together on Zoom. And at the top of the hour, when we come on, I just will say, hey, what are you working on today? And there might be multiple people, but for this gal, it's just her and I. She is someone who decided to go back to school, and she needed a dedicated space to do her homework. She was finding it hard since she works full time to get it done. And so we come together a couple times a week on Power Hour, and she works on her most important things. And I also work at the same time. We turn our cameras off, but she likes the fact that she can hear me typing or moving around in my office. Sometimes she can just hear little things, and she doesn't feel so alone. She works from home full time. She has a roommate, but she works from home full time and she goes to school online.
Wow.
This poor girl never goes anywhere.
Oh,
Like, you know, I mean, she does. So if you're listening to this, you know who you are. You do go places. I'm not. But, you know, she's home all the time and home alone most of the time. And it's hard. And so we just come together and we do that. And she has told me numerous times how beneficial that is for her because it does hold her accountable. She's got to show up, you know, because I'm not going to get on Zoom by myself for an hour. So she's got to show up. And number two, it is a boundary for her. She gets to set that boundary that I'm going to do that. And this is what I'm going to work on during that time. And that she's going to be fully aware that she's working, like that she's got something working versus, you know, checking Facebook or playing on Facebook. Like I know she's not doing that. She's actually doing the thing she's supposed to. So she finds that super beneficial. And that has really, really changed. Well, it has changed how she attends school. And I think it has changed kind of her work habits and just having some things that are opportunities and looking at them as opportunities rather than a chore, something else I have to do.
and
And
it's something,
that's one of the things.
it's so simple. I mean, it was something so simple, but you knew exactly what it was that she needed. And then
Yes.
you did it. Again, very simple, but it
Yes.
really fulfilled her need and made her able to move forward successfully. That's huge.
Yes.
Very intuition based that you have.
Yes.
And you were even talking about that earlier when you said everybody would come to me and talk to me. What am
Yep.
I going to do? I'm going to charge people. So how
Right.
do you feel comfortable about that? I know that's difficult. I mean, if there's coaches that are listening or anyone that's an entrepreneur that provides a service, it is uncomfortable asking for money. Have you gotten over that? How have you gotten over that? I know you've been doing this for a while, so how have you gotten over that?
Yeah. I really, well, number one, it is my sole source of income now. So I kind of didn't have a choice but to get over. Like I kind of just had to come to terms with it and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. The other thing I really did, to be honest with you, was I stopped listening to all the gurus. I stopped listening to you have to charge this much, or you should be making this much, or you should be charging this much an hour or per session. And I really started listening to my intuition and I started charging what I felt was appropriate.
Mhm.
And so, you know, something like my power hour, not to throw money out, but something like my power hour is unlimited and it's $97 a month. So it's not super pricey, but I'm not doing a ton of work for it.
Yeah, but you're
You know,
there for them
I'm
whenever
just,
they need you. That's really good.
yes. And so I'm happy to do those kinds of things. And I love that I can have offerings like that. And yet I can still have my high dollar, you know, my high dollar one-to-one coaching program that can be a little more pricey. And I'm happy to have anything in between.
Yeah.
And I love to make my own packages too. So I have women all the time that'll come to me and say, hey, I want to work with you, but I can't afford this. What can we do? I say, great, let's do this.
Well, I'm going to first ask, and I did ask for all of my guests to bring their favorite quote, mantra, or positive affirmation. So let's share that first. What would you like to
Absolutely. So my
share?
quote is from Walt Whitman, and
Ah,
it's keep your face always towards the sun, and your shadow will fall behind you.
mm,
I love that so much. The first time I heard that, I went, oh, that's perfect.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Kind of like
yeah.
the front. That's why the front window is so big, and your rear view mirror is so
Yes.
small.
Yes, exactly. Keep the past in the past and just keep moving towards the goodness. The sun is not that the shadow is always bad, because if you've ever done any shadow work, it's important and we need it. But the sun is where we're headed. We're headed. Like I always think of that as like my positive forward.
Mhm.
Like I want my positive forward. I do my shadow work when I need it, but it can stay back here because it's not the fun side of things.
Yeah. Okay, so lastly, how can people reach you? Let's give people a couple of ways to get a hold of you and get involved with all of the wonderful things that you're offering.
Absolutely. So I do have a really great website that has some free calls on it. So that's thankfulheartscoaching.com. And otherwise you can find me on social media pretty much anywhere at Thankful Hearts Coaching. All of my stuff is Thankful Hearts Coaching.
That is perfect, easy to remember.
Yes.
And that's exactly what people want when they're on a podcast. So Jennifer, Anderson, I would like to thank you for being on my podcast on Ladies Who Leap. And I'm sure that there's a lot of information that listeners can get from our conversation. So thank you very much for spending the time.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate it.
And everybody have a great day. Thank you for joining. Thanks so much for listening or watching. Please subscribe to the Ladies Who Leap podcast to be notified of new episodes. And I would love to hear from you. Let me know what works, what doesn't, and if you have a story to tell, please reach out. Come join the Leap community at the Ladies Who Leap Club Facebook group. Remember, leaping out of your comfort zone is where the growth happens.